We're under siege. We're being invaded by our own military.
Did you hear what he said? He said we are being invaded by
Yeah.
our own military, our own. Yeah. But see, this isn't the first
By our
time
own
that we
military.
can go
The
back.
FBI.
Yeah, by our own military. We can go back in history when they've come into Black neighborhoods and did crap like this. This is why we're trying to tell people, like, there has been a constant state of terror in Black communities, not from other Black people, but from those on those agencies on the outside that come in. That's been going on for years, whether it's the police, whether it's ICE, whether it was the KKK back when my grandparents were alive and living down south. This is why I'm trying to tell people there has been constant disruption and constant terror in Black communities. And then people expect you to feel as though that has no impact on your life as you grow up.
All right, guys, let's get into this. I have a clip that I like to share, and then we'll get more deeper into the story. Like Sabby Sabs says, we're going to do a deep dive. All right. All right. So let's take a look. See here. And here we go.
I spoke to one woman who actually lives in this building, and she said she was detained by ICE agents overnight, and she says they took everyone and then asked questions later.
They just treated us like we were nothing.
Patricia Fisher said she came out to the hallway of her apartment complex on the corner of 75th and South Shore Drive in her nightgown around 10 Monday night, only to find ICE agents yelling police.
It was scary because I've never had a gun put in my face. They asked my name and my date of birth and asked me, did I have any warrants? And I told them no, I didn't.
She says she was then handcuffed and released around 3 a.m. Fisher says she was told if anyone had any kind of warrant out for them, even if it was unrelated to immigration, they would not be released. Citizen video shows the chaotic scene overnight. Says,
let's get your first initial thoughts about that.
Yeah, so we're probably gonna have to, after the stream, that blast, we're probably gonna have to edit that out.
Oh, I wasn't thinking about it. Okay.
Because YouTube may take that as a gunshot, even though it's not.
Okay.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, Donald Trump sent ICE into Chicago, and as he has in other cities as well. And this South Shore neighborhood, a lot of the Black population in Chicago lives on the south side of Chicago. Now, there's Black people that live in the north side of Chicago as well, but a lot of them primarily are in the south side of Chicago. So when I went to Chicago, you could see the difference. Like, I took the L, which is their subway is called the L train. I got on the L, and we went from Wrigley Stadium to the Science Museum. The Science Museum is in the south side of Chicago, and you literally could see the demographic change as you went from the north side to the south side. Like, it went from white yuppies to black. It's hyper segregated in Chicago, right? So this is something that JB and I tried to warn people about when Donald Trump said he was going to send ICE after the migrants, that for one, you have to remember, yes, there are migrant communities in the US, but I can tell you from experience here in the Boston area, Massachusetts, a lot of times they are living in Black neighborhoods. So what happens is, so if ICE is coming in, that means they're coming into a Black neighborhood. That means that Black people in that neighborhood are also at a risk. And this is what me and JB kept trying to warn people about. Did we not try to warn people about this, JB? Yeah. So when they come into these neighborhoods, they're not checking to see, you notice they ain't going into white neighborhoods. Nope. They're not checking to see, okay, let's see if, this person is a citizen or not. No. Like, they were told that a Venezuelan gang, I think they're called Trinagua or whatever, a Venezuelan gang was in that area. So they are willing to arrest as everybody in that area, even those who are not Venezuelan. They don't care. They don't care. All they know is that you're black. All
Yeah.
they know is that you don't have white skin. They're going to take you too.
Yep.
And so that's what happened in this neighborhood. And I noticed people are starting, you know, some people kind of quiet. Kind of quiet, and others trying to make excuse. No. This is what I was warning people about, because in particular here in Boston, when the migrants were bused from Texas to Massachusetts, first they were sent to Martha's Vineyard, and the wealthy white people said no. The wealthy white people said we don't want them here. Yeah, so that's the whole JB will come back in. I think he lost connection. So that's the whole like not in my backyard thing, where a lot of the liberals, they say that they support these communities and said issue, but the moment that it's in their neighborhood, they don't want it. So then what happened? The governor of Massachusetts took migrants out of Martha's Vineyard because the rich white people complained, even though Martha's Vineyard is vacant for most of the year.
Yeah.
And put them into black neighborhoods in Roxbury.
Yeah.
So this is what I was trying to tell people. So when ICE comes in to look for them, what communities do you think they're going into? So
all those black Americans. Yep. All those black Americans said, "Oh, I'm gonna call ICE on y'all." Okay, so you want ICE to do pre-dawn flashbangs in your neighborhood next to you? Okay, be prepared, because that's exactly what's gonna happen. And don't look too ethnically black, because they're gonna think you're Haitian, or they're gonna think you're from the different islands,
right?
Or they may think you're from Nigeria or Gambia,
Jamaica,
or they can think you're from any one of these other countries, right?
And people have to remember, ICE is basically, they're the police. They're cops for immigration. But did you notice what they said in the video? They said that people who they arrested that had a warrant would remain in custody, which means they weren't just going after people that were migrants. They were also going after people who were not. And that's not their job. Like Chicago has a police department, a very racist police department. That's their job. Now you got ICE trying to get people for other reasons other than immigration. So this is why, like JB and this is why I said before, I don't fuck with ICE. I don't mess with because they're cops. They're cops. They're all still police. So you can't, that's the thing I was saying to people before. You can't say defund the police, or I'm against the police, or F the police, and say yay for ICE, because ICE is they're also cops.
Yeah. Can I address something really quick? Because this is interesting. This person who says they're well informed says, so this is just I guess you mean a complaining session, because we knew this would happen. Just have your stuff together and your papers readily available. Here's the thing. Let me ask you this. If somebody sits there and then puts a gun to your face, and it's 3 o'clock in the morning, you're dead asleep, and then they take you out of the house before you even have a chance to grab any papers, then are you going to have the chance to be able to do that while they have you sitting on the curb, zip tied behind your back, and you sit there for 3 hours while they take their sweet little time to check to see if you're a citizen or not?
They don't even give you the chance to do that. When they come in, they bust down the door, and they just
sleep with my wallet on me, not in my house. I don't know who does.
No. I mean, the same thing happened to the Huru, right? Remember Amali Yeshatella? They were asleep, and they just bust in and pointed guns at their face. And first of all, why you got guns at their face? Pointed guns at their face, handcuffed them, and all that kind of stuff. Now that wasn't even an immigration thing, but still, they don't ask you questions.
No.
They come and they book you first, and then they ask questions later. And not to mention, since this happened late at night, like people were, sleeping, that type of thing. Remember, people got to get up and go to work in the morning. How long were they detained?
Well, it said that one lady was detained for about 3 hours.
Okay.
So if they came in at 3 a.m., then 3 hours, or I'm sorry, if they came in at midnight, then that means that 3 hours, that means that she was there until 3 a.m. And so that's hours of sleep that she couldn't get back that, you know, maybe she has to work in the morning, maybe they have to go to school in the morning. How many kids, you know, were traumatized from that? You know what I mean? That's scary. It's
And then
crazy.
you got to deal with that trauma. And that's another thing. So now they may have, some of them may have PTSD where every time they lay down to go to sleep, now they're going to feel some type of way, like they're scared to go to sleep. And I've seen this happen before with kids in particular. I've
Mm-hmm.
seen it happen with children where when I was a camp counselor, they're afraid to go to sleep at night because things that happened at night at home. So then you got to deal with the trauma, got to deal with the
Mm-hmm.
PTSD that goes along with that.
Yeah.
But that is a disruption of their life.
Yeah.
And one of the things I said before that I learned when I was at the reparations task force is that Black communities in particular constantly have disruption, whether it's the CIA planting drugs in Black communities, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's what you just saw happen in that video where they kicked down the door,
Mm-hmm.
arrested people that weren't even immigrants.
Yeah.
They don't give a damn. They just know you're Black.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. If people can't see this for what this really is, you don't see them going into white neighborhoods.
Mm-mm.
That's what
Nope.
JB and I tried to warn people. And two, to the point we knew this would happen. No, me and JB said that it would happen. There
Mm-hmm.
were many people that said they would not do this, that Black people would be fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as if they can tell between who's Black American and who's not, based just on phenotype. Like Black Americans come in a kaleidoscope of colors. Some of us are so high yellow that we even pass for white, right?
Yep.
Some of us are deep and dark. You would think we were from South Sudan, but our family has lineage here. So it doesn't matter. And that whole BS argument about, oh, well, Black Americans have a particular copper complexion. No, we all don't. No, we all don't. And so therefore, by that very notion, somebody can look at us and go, oh, well, you look like you probably from Eritrea. Meanwhile, some people who are Black that were from Eritrea do look like they're Black American. Like Nipsey Hussle was Eritrean. Some people didn't know that. Right? And so the thing is like, you know, all this talking about, oh, I'm going to call ICE, right? It's like, okay, but you know what? You know you're going to get caught up in the crossfire, right?
In particular for Black people, as we know from experience, the police are never your friend. They're never your friend. How is this any different from when police officers like burst through someone's door, pointed guns at their face before, and they ran into the wrong house?
Mm-hmm.
We've covered those stories.
Like, what part of ACAB don't y'all understand?
They even had a kid. Did you hear what she said in the video? A child.
Mm-hmm.
So I just see people like trying to make an excuse for this or whatever. And some people have been very, very quiet. And this is exactly what we were warning would happen because they don't care. Like I said, you do not see them going into white neighborhoods.
No.
And that's important. You know why?
Mm-hmm.
I know for a fact that there are people that live in some of these wealthy white neighborhoods that have housekeepers, landscapers that are not here legally.
Mm-hmm.
So why isn't ICE going into those neighborhoods? Think about that.
What about the person from France or Portugal or Spain or Italy that overstayed their visas that are still here? What about them? What about people from Belarus or Ukraine? What about them?
They're not looking for them. But that's the whole point, JB. They're not looking for the Europeans, you know? So this is the thing. And I feel like a lot of people kind of like, I want to say falling for it, but playing into it. And this is very dangerous because like I said, they could come for you next time. And you're like, what did I do wrong? Luckily, no one is dead.
Thankfully.
Because let's be real. We know these situations where police go into Black neighborhoods don't always go well.
Yep. I've had Haitian people ask me if I was Haitian. All because of my last name.
New York is a big melting pot. I know we say the U.S. is a melting pot, but New York City is a huge like melting pot, right? So it's just I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, this is a red alarm, but even the children, it's like, you know, why do you have a kid?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's finish off this report here.
Budget trucks and military-style vans were used to separate parents from their children. Other neighbors say,
I want to, because people are asking this question about this truck. Hang on, let's go back here just for a second because I really want to hit this home.
Watson says budget trucks and military-style vans were used to separate parents from their children. Other neighbors.
So I'm sorry. When was it ever legal to put detainees in the back of a box truck?
I don't know. They probably paid for a rent. Well, you can rent those budget trucks, but those are usually used when people are like moving. You know, you can get the budget rental truck or you can get the U-Haul rental truck. But yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, there's no seats, and there's no safety harness, nothing.
They don't care.
Exactly.
Say they saw agents destroying property to get in the building.
And they had a big 15-inch chainsaw with a round blade on it, cutting this fence down. We're under siege. We're being invaded by our own military.
The FBI did confirm this morning that they did help the U.S. Border Patrol carry out a targeted immigration enforcement operation in this area, and they say they have been supporting these efforts at the direction of the U.S. Attorney General.
Did you hear what he said? He said we are being invaded by our own military, our own. Yeah. But see, this isn't the first
By our
time
own
that we
military.
can go back.
The FBI.
Yeah, by our own military. We can go back in history when they've come into Black neighborhoods and did crap like this.
Mm-hmm.
This is why we're trying to tell people, like, there has been a constant state of terror in Black communities, not from other Black people, but from those on those agencies on the outside that come in. That's been going on for years, whether it's the police, whether it's ICE, whether it was the KKK back when my grandparents were alive and living down south. This is why I'm trying to tell people there has been constant disruption and constant terror in Black communities.
Mm-hmm.
And then people expect you to feel as though that has no impact on your life as you grow up.
Yeah. And this is why it's so important for people. Like, we're not asking you to go and put your complete life on the line, but recognize that when you call for policies that target other marginalized groups, just realize that you're going to get swept up with it too. And this reminds me of when back then, when a lot of people, particularly, a significant portion of white people, whenever anything bad happened to us, they were okay with it until it started to happen to them. And then once it started to happen to them, oh my God, this isn't who we are. And we've been saying, what? This is exactly who we are. It just hasn't happened to you yet.
Right. Bingo. We've been saying this about healthcare. We said it about healthcare. You and I said it about Social Security, all these different things, like all these policies that were put in place are designed in such a way that it would impact the Black community in a negative way, also end up hurting poor white people.
Yeah.
Because they don't care about you either. Mm-hmm. It's just reality. Look at the what you're hearing right now, the pain from the white farmers. What we tell you? What we tell people? So, and that's the thing I never understood were, in particular, Black people who thought that Trump was going to do something for the Black community. Why think that when he already showed you who he was the first damn time?
Yeah. It's no different than the same okie doke of people who voted for Biden or voted for Harris. Like, y'all knew who she was when she was AG of California. What makes you think she'd be any different? And so this is the same thing with Donald Trump. You guys saw what he did in the first administration. And then you guys were like, oh, well, I think he's going to be good for us because we got the 14th Amendment. Just because it's a law doesn't mean that they actually follow it.
I mean, Trump is a
We
great
talk
example.
about, oh, they're circumventing the First Amendment. Oh, they are. What makes you think they won't circumvent the 14th? They do the same thing to our Second Amendment rights. Do you actually have belief and think that they're actually going to abide by the Constitution? Oh, we can't touch you because it's the 14th Amendment. Baby, have you been living in this country? They don't give a damn about that.
No, I mean, look at all
Permanent.
the other things that Trump has just, walked right over, whether it's an amendment or in the Constitution or not.
Mm-hmm.
He don't care. Now, luckily, a federal judge has been able to strike some of the things down, but that don't mean anything. The people not understand. You're not really free here. You may not be in chains, but you're not really free. They can come after you anytime for any little thing.
Yeah.
And so I just hope that people stay alert, keep their eyes open, keep their ears peeled, you know what I mean? So just paying attention to what's happening and what's going on, because this is why, like, this whole mindset of I'm going to be safe. They're not going to come after me. You don't know what's going to happen, especially with Trump. You don't know
Nope.
what he's going to do.
Mm-mm.
This the same person that said he was going to end the wars, right? The
Mhm.
peace, so-called
Mhm.
peace candidate.
Yeah.
And if you look at the social justice issues, everything that Trump is doing is for white people.
Mm-hmm. And the crazy part is, like, all the black people who decided to vote for Trump. Now, don't get me wrong. The people who voted for Harris too, y'all got played too. But particularly for the people who voted for Trump, they did what liberals did. Well, I know he got all these issues, but he's better than the other option. They lesser to evil Trump. Like, what are you doing? They're both just as evil as the other. And I said it before, and I'll say it again. And some people may look at me wrong for this, but hey, it is what it is. Donald Trump is just Kamala Harris with a comb over, and Kamala Harris is just Donald Trump with a lace front. That's it. Cut from the same cloth. Look at the policies. Don't look at the rhetoric. Look at the policies. Because here's the thing: they both stand on the same side of a lot of things. They both get their money from the same people. And on top of that, they're both kissing the feet of Zionist occupiers. So what's really the difference between them? Not much. And so you got to realize, who are they owned by? Stop falling for the okie doke.
If you're black, you're not safe in this country, period.
No.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be policies or the politicians. It could be law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
It could be real estate.
Yep.
It could be eminent domain. If you're not, it's these things. I don't know. I don't know, man. I think that I hope more people talk about the story. I know Phil Scott talked about it as well, because this should be a wake-up call.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't give a damn. We know from experience, they do not mind locking up black people and then asking questions later, or not asking questions at all.
Mm-hmm. Because whose administration was it when the Omali Shatella and the rest of the Uhuru 3 were being indicted as co-conspirators for Russia? Who was in power?
Biden.
So
it don't matter.
It don't matter.
It don't matter, because here's the thing. When we look at all these police brutality cases, that happens regardless if the president is a Democrat or a Republican.
Yep.
Now, a lot of us, we remember George Floyd, and we talked about George Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we still talked about George Floyd when we started, like, RBN 2021. We still talked about George Floyd even then, because the trial was starting, right?
Mm-hmm.
There were multiple police brutality incidents that made national news after George Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
Most people in YouTube media didn't even cover it.
Nope.
Because you know why? Biden was president.
Yep.
But we covered it.
Michael Brown, I think it was Michael Brown. He was killed when Obama was president. Wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
so Black Lives Matter started under Obama.
Yep. This is what we've been trying to tell people, that like these things now you hear about it more when it happens under a Republican, administration. George Floyd was a little bit different because that was also during the pandemic. And then there were several states that were locked down. So like, I know I was at home, they sent us all home from work. And so a lot of us saw it because we were in that position at that point in time. But what I'm saying is, what about all the other police brutality incidents that made national news that happened under the Biden administration?
Mm-hmm.
Why were more people talking about that? Remember Amir? Remember the guy, the kid who was sleeping on the couch and they did the no-knock warrant and they came in and killed him?
Mm-hmm. Yep. A lot of people didn't cover what happened to Norris Richardson. Norris Richardson was found hanging by a noose on a porch. He was a disabled Black man.
There have been multiple of them over the years.
I think there's been like 4 or 5 this year.
And these are just the cases you know about. This doesn't include the ones that have happened that haven't been reported.
Mm-hmm.
But the lynchings that have been happening over the years should make national news, but
Yep. Black liberation is not going to happen under capitalism. There's no financial literacy your way out of this. There's none. There's no, we just got to get the right Black face in the high place out of this. Also, I said this, and I'll say this again. We say Black faces in high places are not going to save us. Well, for my fellow Black Americans, freedmen faces in high places aren't going to save us either. You have to recognize, because guess what? Who's a freedman face in a high place? Hakeem Jeffries.
Jim Clyburn. No, because they're going to look out for themselves.
Yeah. They're freedman faces in high places.
That's how they got there. They didn't get there because someone said, "Oh, I think you're doing a good job as a lawyer." No. They got there to play the game because they were willing to sell out. They were willing to do what they wanted to do. This is why I always push back on people like Jim Clyburn when he says, "I was an activist. I am a progressive." Jim, if you talk to people in Jim Clyburn's district, Jim Clyburn, in particular, the Black people in his district, Jim Clyburn hasn't done anything progressive in that district. It's one of the poorest districts in the country, but Jim Clyburn's not poor.
Yeah.
It is white liberals that keep him in power. It is white liberals who vote for him and keep him in power.
Because they love those fish fries. But this, I have to address this. Esoteric's teaching says conflating Floyd with other legitimate police killings of Black people hurt the cause. Please research Floyd Chauvin before you talk about it so much. What do you mean by legitimate police killings? Are you saying that George Floyd's murder was justified? What did he do wrong? Was it the supposedly counterfeit $20 bill? Was it maybe him being under the influence? What was it that legitimized his extrajudicial murder by a police officer? Is that police officer judge, jury, and executioner? Also, by the way, white people actually went out in these streets and protested about the murder of Tony Tempa. Do you know who Tony Timpa is? Tony Timpa was a white man who the cops kneeled on his neck for 14 minutes. I didn't see nobody out in the streets for him. So I'm sorry, but you came onto a black network to say, oh, well, George Floyd's killing was illegitimate. I'm sorry, but it was legitimate because guess what? Just because there's no such thing as a perfect victim. No such thing. And you keep trying to find a perfect victim, you're not going to find one. So this is the wrong place to do that. Because here's the problem. And this is the problem with the internalized white supremacy that we may have, is that we're always trying to look for the perfect victims. Just like when we talk about Palestinians, we always want to talk about the women and the children, the innocent women and the children. What about the Palestinian men? What about them? The fathers, the uncles, the brothers, the sons. So see, let's dismiss all that perfect victim BS, because that's not exactly what we need to be focused on. The focus needs to be on the system that exploits various different groups, particularly those of us who are Black in this country, many people who are marginalized in many other different ways. And we need to focus on getting rid of that system, because that is what's harming all of us, because we all have a common enemy. Am I wrong?
I just think that people in some cases will say, let the system play out, let the procedure, play out. And for whatever reason, when it comes to police brutality, all of a sudden it's okay to not let that process play out. That's just kind of how I look at it, right? So Derek Chauvin had multiple complaints of police brutality prior to George Floyd, and not just of Black people, but also indigenous people in Minneapolis.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for those of us who watched the trial, and I saw the trial, all of this was explained, like during the trial. It was also explained too that the procedure, or excuse me, the knee on the neck that he used, the police officer, the police department said that was not protocol.
Yeah, no, it's not.
So to me, it just, and this is just how I see it. There's a system in place, right? Aren't people supposed to get their day in court? Aren't they supposed to have a trial?
It's called due process. It's not like it's not like George Floyd wasn't cooperating. It's not like George Floyd wasn't sitting on the ground in cuffs. They could have just put him inside the squad car, drove off, booked him, and then, I mean, he wasn't even resisting arrest. They actually showed the footage from other areas.
So again, as historic teachings, that's for due process to decide.
Yes.
That's the
Why
thing.
are we acting like Judge, Jury, and executioner? It's like, no. Even if that were true, is that a killable offense by a police officer without due process?
What does that have to do with him putting his knee on his neck? When the police department said during the trial that was not protocol. So he was still in the wrong.
Yeah. And just because you're half Black, it doesn't matter, because we all have internalized white supremacy. I have to get rid of it. Sabby has to get rid of it. Everybody has to get rid of it. Because guess what? We all have it, because it's been ingrained in us for hundreds of years. So guess what? You got to get rid of yours too. Everybody does. And the thing is, it's like, look, you can talk about, oh, well, he had fentanyl in his system. I bet you his ass would still be alive if a knee wasn't on his neck, though.
That part. Oh, and by the way, apparently that's a death sentence now. Apparently that's okay. That's a death sentence. You know, it was really funny. Someone pointed this out to me recently about Megyn Kelly. Megyn Kelly, who likes to say, oh, he was a drug addict and don't talk about this person. They were a drug addict. Guess who interviewed a drug addict on their show recently? Megyn Kelly. She said right there and interviewed Charlie Sheen. Apparently that one's okay.
Yeah.
I wonder why.
Yeah. And while we're talking about substances, it may not be an illegal substance, but it's a substance nonetheless. Caffeine is also a substance. How many people are addicted to caffeine? A lot of people are addicts for something. So people have, they're hypocritical. But anyways, I want to get into this article just to get a little bit more of the details of what happened when that immigration raid, because I think the details are important. And so, don't want that. It says the Department of Homeland Security said federal agents with Border Patrol and FBI and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives arrested 37 people in the raid. And so it talks about how this person named Don Jones was asleep at 1 a.m. and they broke in. They broke into his building. And so he said he walked out, found broken doors littering the hallway. His neighbors were missing. He says, so armed federal agents in military fatigues busted down doors overnight, pulling men, women, and children from their apartments, some of them naked. Residents and witnesses said agents approached or entered nearly every apartment in the 5-story building. U.S. citizens were among those detained for hours. When he got home from work, Jones said he entered his unit to find all of his electronics and furniture missing, all of his clothes and shoes thrown on the floor. Jones said he had no idea who took his belongings and hadn't received answers from Chicago police. He says on Wednesday, toys, shoes, and food were still in piles in the building's hallways. Property managers were seen throwing away mattresses and broken doors into dumpsters. This is one of the photos from the hallway.
Can you pause there for a second, JB? I just want to talk about that picture. So now all these people have to go out and buy another fan. Is that a window unit? Is that one of the AC window units over there? It kind of looks like it. All I'm saying is they have to go buy this stuff all over again.
Yeah, that's an AC window unit right there.
Yeah, so those AC window units aren't cheap.
Nope.
I know. Like I've had to buy them. So my whole thing is that now they have to go buy this stuff again. So you're already in a neighborhood that's lower income. You're disrupting people's sleep and they got to go to work the next day. And then you ruin their belongings. So now they have to buy this stuff again.
Yep, absolutely. Which also this is why this is also equally a class issue. Because people ain't got money to replace this stuff like that. It says the Department of Homeland Security said federal agents, the Border Patrol, FBI, and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives arrested 37 people in the raid. DHS says some of those arrested are believed to be involved in drug trafficking and distribution, weapons crimes, and immigration violations. The feds also claimed that the South Shore neighborhood was a location known to be frequent by the Tren de Aragua members and their associates, but DHS gave no evidence to support the assertion, and authorities did not confirm that any of the people arrested were members of the Venezuelan gang. The alleged Tren de Aragua members have been charged and detained in the city as recently as August, but the Chicago Sun-Times found little evidence tying them to violence in Chicago. So just because they may have been suspected of being in the gang, let's say they're here now, but they didn't do anything, then why are they being detained if they haven't committed a crime here in the United States?
Well, I'm going to answer that question that people are going to say because they were here illegally.
What if they overstayed their visa? Maybe that was it. Maybe they were trying to get out of the gang, because a lot of gangs that we know here in the United States, the only way out of the gang is death. So guess what? They saved themselves in their life. Maybe they wanted to turn over a new leaf, and the only way they can get out was by leaving Venezuela. Who knows?
But the fact that they
refugees.
But the fact that they took Black kids again shows you that they see them as adults. And we've talked
Absolutely.
about this before as well, that they don't see them as a child. That once that child becomes a certain age, they look at them the same way they would look at an adult that they were trying to arrest.
So let's continue this. This one says, I asked agents why they were holding me if I was an American citizen, and they said I had to wait until they looked me up. I asked if they had a warrant. I asked for a lawyer. They never bought one. It says the spokesperson for Chicago FBI field office confirmed the Bureau was present to support a targeted immigration enforcement operation carried out by Border Patrol. If it's immigration enforcement operation, but you have, let's say you are an American, but you have a warrant, this is immigration. Shouldn't they leave that up to the Chicago PD?
That's what I was saying. Like, what does that have to do with ICE? But see, if I understand correctly, I think because ICE is still law enforcement, that's why I say ICE are still cops.
Yeah. So it talks about how they use flashbang grenades to burst through the building, and several drones and helicopters were deployed. She said, Ebony Sweets Watson said it looked like hundreds of agents were outside her front door. Watson said she saw agents dragging residents, including kids, out of the building without any clothes on and into U-Haul vans. Kids were separated from their mothers.
Stop for a second. What does that remind you of? Kids being separated from the parents. What does that remind you of, JB, with Black people?
It reminds me of slavery.
There you go.
Slavery. Yeah. Yep. And then this part says, it was heartbreaking to watch, even if you're not a mother, seeing kids come out butt naked and taken from their mothers. It was horrible. Watson said she went into the building to help one of the residents who was shocked by what she saw. Stuff was everywhere. You could see people's birth certificates and papers thrown all over. Water was leaking into the hallway. It was wicked crazy.
That say they took kids out naked?
Yes. She said, even if you're a mother, seeing kids come out butt naked and taken from their mothers, it was horrible.
So
this is what it did.
But again, like how was that legal?
Right?
I'm sorry. More Black people need to talk about this. I'm sorry. Like that. This is not. No. This is not cool at all. A child.
That's inhumane. And you know how and the nights get cold in Chicago.
I mean, not even that, but that's a child.
Yeah. It's inhumane. It's cruel. It's just wrong.
Timothy, hold on. Timothy, yes, it is. You know why it is? These were Black people. These were Black residents.
Yo, y'all got to get off this damn plantation and start looking at this from a humanitarian issue. Because the thing is, when you say, oh, this is not an FBA problem, it's not our problem. Guess what? Yes, it is, because guess what? They're coming after us too.
Like this, like we literally played the video of the Black woman, of Black people who were taking out of their homes. So yes, it is.
Stop sniffing glue and actually look at your own people being affected by this too. What the hell is wrong with you? Now you're doing the exact same thing that was done to our ancestors, otherizing other people just because of somebody scapegoating them, and then making you look like they're the problem. And here's the crazy part: why aren't you attacking the white people who actually are the ones who are being the ones who are employing the people who are undocumented, who are allowing them to come in? Why aren't you going after Donald Trump, who said, oh, we're going to get rid of all the illegals? But then when it comes to actually going after the ones that work in agriculture, he goes, oh, wait, maybe. That's not a good idea. Because guess who he's buddies with? The same people who exploit the people from the global south below our border. And you know why the U.S. does not get anywhere? Because we don't have solidarity with the other workers that are around the world that may not look like us.
But that's intentional.
That's
That's intentional.
Yeah,
That's we don't have solidarity in this country either.
No, Black people can't even stick together.
No. Everybody out for themselves.
Individualism is one of the worst things that ever happened to us in this country. And then what? Then what? Let's say we get rid of all the quote unquote illegals. You know what they're going to do? Then what are you going to do? Then you're going to start separating yourself from LGBTQ free men? Are you going to do that? What about the ones who are neurodivergent? Are you going to start separating yourself from them? We're already at a gender wars with Black Americans now, where Black men and Black women are actually at each other's throats, especially online. Like, where's the line going to be? Let's continue. All right. Wait. Oh, here we go. Okay. Now, continuing on. It says, so most of his neighbors were Venezuelan and often took turns cleaning the hallway because the property owners did little to maintain it. They were cool people. Said they didn't speak a lick of English, but we used translator apps to talk to each other. Jones wondered what would happen to his neighbor's young children. Jones and Johnson said that they believed our landlord kicked out the remaining residents from the building, which public records show they had previously received code violations. Owners of the property could not be reached for comment. Like, for instance, how many people are going to go after the people who actually own the building? They're not saying anything about them. So it says here, if it was a violent show of force in the middle of the night, taking families out on an apartment building in a residential neighborhood like that is harmful, is traumatic, and that is something that people is not something that people can easily recover from, whether they themselves were taken or whether they witnessed it. Yeah. Charlie Guy says ICE raiding Black people is an issue. Keep on that, because that is an issue. Yeah.
I want to play what Phil Scott said here.
Sure.
Because I want people to hear this. Push this up here because he did cover it. So let me share my screen real quick. He did cover it. So I just want to show people what he said.
I'm seeing how they moving. They being very aggressive, and it's like I see it coming. What's going to end up happening? And I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm completely wrong on what I'm about to say. What's going to end up possibly happening? One of these aggressive ICE agents or one of the federal agents is going to harm somebody and take their life, and it's going to be a bad situation. And who they do it may be a child, it can be somebody, right? And that they're going to do it at the right time, and that is what's going to spark off people. Because let me tell you the environment that they're doing this in. A lot of layoffs are happening to people. Mass firings are happening to people. People are worried about if I'm going to be homeless, can I afford groceries? And when you start getting people in that kind of position where they are desperate And when they get to a point, I feel like I have nothing to lose, and they're not even worried about no jail or any of that at that point, right? And for surely not worried about no ICE agents or whoever else they're worried about. They're going to have a problem. And I've always said this, and it's the truth. It's a numbers game in America. There's more people than them at the end of the day. There's more people. I heard they're starting to do this mess in New York. New York is, I think, the wrong city to really be pushing people, because New Yorkers on a good day be down with it, the business. You know what I'm saying? So you don't want to put people in that kind of position, because the way people are feeling right now, if something happens, I believe it's going to be worse than George Floyd, and more people are going to be a part of it than just black people. You know what I'm saying?
This is the warning, because what's going to end up happening is they going to go too far.
Yep.
And I'd say taking the kids out with no clothes on is already too damn far. But they gonna mess around and they gonna go too far. And it's gonna be a whole damn thing. Because this is the first time that you and I think have seen it where they detained black people.
Yep.
Because to JB's point, when you're black, they're not like, oh, okay, that person is black. They could be Black American, or they could be Haitian or Jamaican. They don't give a damn.
Nope.
And this is the same thing I've explained to other people who like Africans that have moved here to the US, particularly here, like in Boston area, that I explained before. This guy told me one time, he was like, oh, I thought you were from Somalia. And I said, no, I'm not from Somalia, and he's like, oh, so you're black, you're American black. And I was like, yes, I am. And then he, kind of said some things about how come your people don't, like that type of thing. And I had to tell him, I said, let me make something very clear to you. Don't align yourself with white supremacy, because particularly in this country, the police are very racist. And when they look at you, they're not trying to figure out whether or not you're a Black American. All they see is they just see a black face.
Yep. It's also important that those of us who are Black American don't align ourselves with the police in this country either. But yet you got some of us going online, going viral for saying we're going to call ICE on some people. Isn't that Black Americans align themselves with police too? We all know that how they feel about us. You know what I mean? So it's crazy. And that's the thing. It's both sides. Like, both sides need to walk away from internalized white supremacy that we may have. You know what I mean? Because we're trying to use the internalized white supremacy so that we don't. It's a self-preservation thing. We're trying to make it so that we don't get gypped, because they're going to use undocumented immigrants to undermine and undercut us. And some immigrants are going to try to use white supremacy so that they can actually make it in this country, so they won't end up just like us. But the problem is that white supremacy is the problem, and it's being used, and capitalism uses white supremacy in order to keep us all separate.
And this point here too, Timothy said, if you don't have a foreign accent, then ICE is going to let you go. No, that's not. No, because there are people in the US that are not here legally, but they don't have a foreign accent.
They teach English in Puerto Rico, right? Even though Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory and they can't be deported. But there's a lot of people who are from other countries where you don't know that they are actually from another country until they tell you, and they sound just as American as you or I. And let them have been born in a country and spent their developmental years, age 2, 3, and 4 here. And guess what? They're going to sound just like us. They're going to look just like the rest of us.
Yep.
So I don't know where you get that information from.
Yep.
But Timmy, you need to wake up.
A little bit more, he said here.
You know what I'm saying, I'm just saying what I'm seeing happening. You could only push people so far before people say, okay, all right. But it's going to take the life of somebody being lost. That's usually how it goes. And because they're being way too aggressive. There's no need to be that aggressive. You understand what I'm saying? Now, some people would say, oh, well, see, that's why we were saying to vote for Kamala and this and that and the third. Well, let's call it what it is. The people that's, I think, more affected by all this than us would be the Latino community. And they didn't go vote for Kamala like that. I take a big issue with anyone telling anybody black about it was our responsibility to put her in office. No, it was more the Latino community responsibility to put her in office because they had way more to lose with Trump getting in office, especially when he promised he was going to be doing this mess. And they still went out and voted for him. Doing all that dance and talking about I'm going to vote for Donald Trump and all that. You know what I'm saying? All of them should have voted for Kamala Harris. Don't any of you do not let none of these Democrat shields or anybody say, well, you didn't vote for her or you sat it out or you did whatever the case may be. Okay, but black folks that did vote, they voted majority Kamala, whether a black male or black female.
That part, JB. Because people are saying that. People are like, well, everybody should have voted for Kamala. Black people should have. The majority of black people did vote for Kamala Harris.
Which I think shouldn't have happened because, to be honest with you, Kamala Harris is just as anti-black as Donald Trump in many ways.
And she ran to the right on immigration.
Yep.
Does everybody forget this all of a sudden? Remember Kamala Harris ran to the right on immigration? So to me, it especially now with both of these parties, each one of them trying to figure out just how I can go more right wing than you. And I'm just because the Democratic Party isn't left. It's another right wing party. It's just not as far right as the Republican Party.
Yeah. And by the way, this person says all the Caribbean South Africans here in Chicago have thick accents. Candace Owens ain't got no accent. Busta Rhymes ain't got no accent.
Neither does LL Cool J.
Nope. Oh, you didn't know they were a part immigrant too.
Or Megan,
or
Megan Good.
There's a lot of people who are of immigrant descent that sound and look just like Black Americans. So you need to get out and touch some grass because if that's all you know, that means you don't know very many of them.
I think at this point he's just trolling because that's another misconception I think a lot of people have is I think a lot of times people assume that you would have an accent. That's not necessarily the case, especially if your first primary years of education were here in the United States.
Yeah,
Roger, LL Cool J.
I might have to research that one. I didn't know that one, but
yeah, LL Cool J also, and also Aaliyah. Remember Aaliyah, singer Aaliyah? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. A little bit more here, sorry.
But the Latino community, who had a lot riding on that election, is the one that should have voted for her 100%. And if they would have voted for her 100%, she'd be the president right now, and they wouldn't be dealing with some of these issues. Of course, we catch it. Listen, let me tell you another reason why they're being so aggressive. Crime is down nationwide. Even in Chicago, crime is down. And when crime is down, prisons don't get full. Prisons is a business, is a $1 billion business in the United States of America. In order for that business to keep running, you got to keep putting people in there. It's not good for business if crime is down. It's not good. Now, these people, and you know what people I'm talking about, are wicked on top of wicked for what they do.
Yep.
They're living up here trying to criminalize people in the mix of this immigration stuff they're doing because they want to funnel more people into prison. But this the thing with that. This particular dispensation of time, a lot of people gonna get a wake-up call. Even though black people, we're gonna deal with issues, but we're gonna come out on top in the end. And I guess more so the Latino community than black people, from what I'm seeing, they ready for the midterms, from what I'm hearing. And a lot of them wanna go vote against the Republicans, which if I was a Latino, I would. I'm just saying if I was a Latino, I would. Because at least the Democrats, they don't try to get me out like that, right? And that's what Trump is afraid of. Because Trump, don't let the Trump and Republicans fool you. They are very afraid about the midterms.
Very, very afraid. And then he goes on to talk about that there. And so the point I thought was interesting, what he brought up there was that they're going to end up going too far. And that's the thing. That's the point that I wanted to see there. LO Half Friedman, right. But the other parent is not.
Yeah.
I don't know why people are surprised by, especially New Yorkers. Yeah, they were born in New York. That's what we're trying to tell you, Timothy. Busta Rhymes is Jamaican. There are people who were born here that don't have an accent, but their family is from somewhere else.
Yeah.
And under Trump's policy, it don't matter if you were born here anyway. That's the point that we're trying to tell you. It don't matter.
Yep. And by some people like you, Buster will be considered a tether. I'm using y'all language.
Well, Busta Rhymes did say some nasty things about Black Americans. Just FYI. Busta Rhymes was one of the people that said we don't have culture.
What is wrong with him?
I don't know if you knew that, but Busta Rhymes said that Black Americans don't have culture.
Busta tripping, man.
Yeah.
Like he literally got a lot of his sauce from us. Anyways,
but that was the debate. That was the conversation. He said that no, we didn't get. He said that we got our rhythm and music from the Caribbean. He said that they had the hip hop flavor first. Yeah, he said that, and he doubled down on it too. So some people not too happy with Busta Rhymes. Just FYI, I think that was like a year ago he said that.
Yeah, Busta tripping because it was Black Americans that, you know, a lot of basically almost every single genre within the United States is created by Black Americans. Or we had something to do with it heavily, but yeah,
that includes country music too for people who aren't aware of that.
Yep, country, bluegrass, all that stuff. Yeah,
because Nashville isn't called Music City because of country music, though. It's called Music City because of the Frisk. You heard the Frisk Jubilee from Frisk University, all Black singing group. That's why it's called Music City, because the Queen heard them sing and said, "Oh, this should be Music City." But a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people think it's called Music City because of the country music scene. No, it was called that because of the Frisk group, and they were Black. They were Jubilee singers.
Ah, gotcha. Okay, learn something new every day. But honestly, you know, at this juncture, this is all part of the system that we live in that needs to be dismantled. Because, you know, why are we trying to either reform or change a system that doesn't work for all of us? You know?
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I think he has that Phil Scott has a point that like it's gonna get to the point where they're gonna go too far, and somebody's gonna get seriously hurt.
Yeah.
And it just, I don't know, man. But notice what's not getting done though, because I've heard presidents complain about the immigration issue my whole life. If they wanted to fix it, they could have fixed it. They don't want to fix it. No. they don't want to fix it. And they know that corporations want cheap labor. And that includes Donald Trump. That's why he didn't go after those that are working at the farms, which he publicly stated he wasn't going after them because he wants cheap labor too.
Yep, he does. because they know that technically they can't really get it from us like they used to because of the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act and all these different things that gave us more fuller rights within this country. So therefore, it's like, okay, got to move on to the other one. Who can we exploit more than Black Americans? All right, then we'll exploit immigrants, and
The
that's who they.
corporations.
Yeah.
The corporations, yeah, and then not only that, but we're talking about benefits too, not wanting to give people benefits.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Like healthcare. They didn't want to give us universal healthcare because they didn't want to give it to Black people.
Exactly. I mean, I heard stories of like, how people said like back in the day, you would get a job at one company, work for that one company, and you would get a pension after a certain number of years, et cetera, like that. I never got no pension.
I wish I did.
I remember like that, like back in the day, people said like, some people had a company car. Like if you worked for a company, they give you a car or whatever. Like
I knew a guy, he worked for Geico and he got a company car.
Yeah. So long time ago. Like that's the thing. Like people aren't getting these things. Not that I know of. I don't know anybody that receives a pension.
Yeah.
Unless,
I know one person.
Unless we're talking about Congress, but I don't know any of them personally. Congress gets a pension after I think 5 years of serving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
But
they don't want to do it because they ultimately, when it comes to ultimately it's because they really would like to go back to chattel slavery, and if they can do it without differentiating between different people, it just keep us all below each other while separate, then they're willing to do that. And the crazy part is, I don't know why this popped into my head, but for some reason it feels relevant. But back then, the way a lot of some Black Americans feel about immigrants is the same way that a lot of white workers felt about Black people. This is why back then the AFL, the American Federation of Labor, I think it's called, they actually discriminated against Black workers. And that was a union. And then the CIO was like, nah, we got to be better towards Black workers. I think it's the Congress of Industrial Organization. And so, and I actually read about this in an article in Black Agenda Report, because the issue is that a lot of white workers in unions actually did not want Black workers around, because they felt like the Black workers were going to get, their pay was going to get undercut because Black workers were going to get paid less, and they can do the same job for less. And so this is what happened in the past.
Also, A. Philip Randolph, he talked about that in his book, about how in the beginning he was organizing or trying to organize with the white workers, and he had to split away because of what you were just saying there. That was one of the reasons. Also, some of the issues that still pertain to Black employees that didn't pertain to white employees, when it came to those issues, the white organizers did not want to be involved. And so in the end, ultimately, A. Philip Randolph realized, you know what, I'm going to have to do something different, because they're just going to continue to sell us out. And in the end, go what works out best for them. And so that book is a really good book. I highly recommend people read. It's about A. Philip Randolph, and it talks about like his experience, not just with race, but also organizing, trying to unionize, and all the different attempts that he had at it along the way. I mean, honestly, like reading it and hearing about all the different attempts that he had, it's exhausting. It's exhausting just to see how many times or how many different, I guess, like organizations he tried to work with, and just to get, Black workers to have rights and benefits and to get the pay that they deserve. So when you're reading it, you're like, okay, that didn't work out. Now he's going to try something different. It's exhausting just hearing about all the different things that he did. And Roger Meadows actually gave me that book. It's really good though. I highly think anybody on the left needs to read that book, especially if you want to know about organizing and organizing spaces, because some of the things, and again, not to finger point, but some of the things and the ways that we were organizing under the Bernie campaign, those things were already tried under A. Philip Randolph. And I think people really need to read that book so that they can see why it didn't work out. Because people hear that and they think, you know, Bernie wasn't the first person to go with that. Jesse Jackson, people forget, Jesse Jackson had a Bernie campaign that went further. That also included like reparations and stuff like that. But I'm telling you, that book explains why we are in the position that we are now in regards to the working class, why things haven't improved. Because like I said, like nothing new is under the sun. People have already tried some of these things. And I think it's good to go back and look at what was tried in the past and why that strategy did not work. A. Philip Randolph. Check it out.